Hello there. Those of you who follow my videos will know that back in August I went to London and attended a conference on undue influence, which looked at ways of helping cult victims, people who are under the influence of indoctrination, to break free from that indoctrination. And it was a 2-day conference, and there was also a press conference, and I've already put the press conference on my channel, and I'm hoping to maybe put parts of the workshop on my channel as well. But I'm bringing this up because I learned a lot from listening to Stephen Hassan, and some of you will be able to see in the interview section of my channel I actually interviewed him as well. And it became obvious from listening to Stephen and paying attention to what he was saying that there is such thing as a right way and a wrong way to go about freeing someone from their indoctrination. There is such a thing. And one word that he used when it comes to waking up those who are under cult indoctrination, he used the word strategic, the strategic approach. Now, that for me says everything about the approach that must be taken when it comes to freeing people from indoctrination. If you want to do that, if you want to involve yourself in that kind of work, which I consider to be very, very important, far too many people in this world are under indoctrination and need to be freed from it, to think for themselves. If you're going to go about doing that, you need to be strategic. And being strategic doesn't mean wading in, gung-ho, all guns blazing, shouting, screaming, intimidating, goading, heckling, belittling, confronting. None of those things are strategic. All of those things are very primal responses from people who have been hurt by a cult and feel that they need to respond in some way. But the people who engage in this sort of activism in the XJW community aren't responding to Watchtower, aren't responding to the governing body, aren't responding necessarily to their local branch office. In the videos that I've seen recently of aggressive activists, they're nearly always responding in this way to ordinary Jehovah's Witnesses, whether this is out in the street, on the literature stands, or outside assemblies, or even in one case, storming a kingdom hall, going inside a kingdom hall and heckling witnesses and pushing leaflets in their faces. Now, I'm hoping it's obvious, well, I know it's obvious to more than just me, that this is entirely not only non-productive but counterproductive. And it would be one thing to say, well, it's not doing any harm. And if it weren't doing any harm, I would be able to just stand back and think, well, each to their own. Everyone's got their own way of doing things. If it's not doing any harm, then what problem do I have with it? But the problem is, it is doing harm. It is counterproductive to the cause that I have dedicated myself to. And I'm obviously aware that in a small number of cases there will be Jehovah's Witnesses who respond to that kind of activism. There will always be a small number of Jehovah's Witnesses who might wake up through being shouted at. All humans are different, and I accept that is the case. But even if I give you that assumption, I would maintain that for every one person who responds to aggressive activism, the shouting, goading, intimidating, belittling, for every one person who responds to that and decides to do research, you're putting off maybe a dozen or so witnesses from going anywhere near a website such as mine or JW Facts, you're putting them off from pursuing objective research about Watchtower. Because what you're doing is you're filling the apostate stereotype. Watchtower has created a stereotype of apostates as being crazy, deranged lunatics who picket assembly halls, who hold up signs, who shout, who intimidate. And when you do those things, however sincere your motives may be, but when you do those things, you fall neatly into the stereotype that Watchtower has created. And the local elders can just point and say, look, we told you. The literature said that they would be like this, and that's exactly what they're like. So I'm coming under a lot of fire at the moment for daring to point this out. It all started a few weeks ago when I made a post on Facebook, which, dared to say, well, this stuff isn't just non-productive, it's counterproductive. It does harm. It stops people from pursuing genuine inquiry against their beliefs. And since then, I've basically come under a barrage of people trying to discredit me. And in most cases, it's people who approve or endorse or engage in this kind of activism. I've even had accusations made against me based on my article on my website where I talk about my story, and they've extrapolated certain elements of my story to make me sound like I'm a sex offender. This is the sort of abuse I'm getting for the heresy of standing up and saying, no, this kind of activism doesn't work. And not only does it not work, it actually doesn't help the cause I'm involved in. It's astonishing. And even for daring to stand up against those people who have attacked me and attacked my family, I'm getting further abuse for doing that. And people saying, well, you're being divisive, you're a troublemaker, you're causing rifts, you're causing tensions, all of which Watchtower could say to me for standing up against what Watchtower's teaching. And it's astonishing. I wanted to just briefly talk about the whole concept of ex-JW community, because it seems to me that some people, when they leave their indoctrination, they like the idea that they can jump into a mirror organisation that respects their freedoms, but at the same time where everybody is a cohesive unit, where there is obligatory unity, obligatory friendship, and everyone who's had a shared experience must be friends with each other, must get on, must work for the greater cause. And I'm very sorry to tell you this, but such a thing does not exist. We're all individuals, and I myself did not fight my way out of a cult to be told, you must be friends with this person. You must be friends with this cheery couple who have empowered a lunatic to write false charges against you. You must be friends with them. I don't have to be friends with anyone. I can choose who my friends are. I fought my way out of a cult to have that freedom. I don't need to be told, you must be friends with that individual. You must not say anything to criticise what that person is doing, even if it's counterproductive to your life's work. No. The whole concept of ex-JW community, in my view, is misunderstood. When I think of the ex-JW community, I think of a very loose-knit amalgamation of people with wildly differing views. Some of those views being harmful or counterproductive. To take one example, there are many. I respect people of different, beliefs, and everyone's entitled to have their own belief system. But it strikes me that if you're an evangelical Christian and your approach with trying to wake up Jehovah's Witnesses is to say, well, you need to be born again, you need to come to Christ, you need to find Jesus, immediately, again, you're falling into that apostate stereotype, because Jehovah's Witnesses are told They're going to try and draw off followers. They're going to try and bring you into their religion. Well, guess what? That's precisely what you're doing by making those sorts of claims. But even for pointing this out, I'm committing a heresy. I'm committing some kind of crime in the minds of some people, which is a huge shame, but it's to be expected. It's to be expected that people who have spent so many years in an organisation where there is enforced unity, enforced friendship, should expect the same thing when they come out of that organisation from those who have had a shared experience. It doesn't work that way. And I understand that this video will be uncomfortable viewing, not least for Jehovah's Witnesses who watch my channel and want to think that there's some utopia on the other side that they can join. I understand I'm bursting a lot of bubbles with this video. But if nothing else, I hope that Jehovah's Witnesses watching this video are at least flattered by the thought that myself and others are taking bullets for the right to wake you up in a productive, progressive, effective way. What I care about more than anything, more than settling some kind of grudge, more than finding retribution, more than getting stuff off my chest, what I care about more than all of those things is waking up current and former Jehovah's Witnesses and anyone who's indoctrinated. That's what I care about. There have been times where I've felt like I could stand outside an assembly hall or a kingdom hall and shout my head off, scream words at Jehovah's Witnesses in the hopes that they would listen to me, but it doesn't work. And I've got news for you. There is no way that you can shout the word pedophile in public at a group of Jehovah's Witnesses, or paedophilia or child abuse. There is no way you can scream those words without looking like a deranged lunatic. There just isn't. There's no way you can do it, even if you're right, even if the things that you're saying are right. We need to be strategic. We need to be clever. When people like Stephen Hassan say there are ways of waking people up, we need to listen to that advice rather than ignore it, saying things like, well, everyone's got their own technique. We should all be respectful of each other's ways of doing things. Who's to say that I'm not waking people up by shouting at Jehovah's Witnesses? No, you're not. And I am allowed to say this. I didn't work to free myself from a cult to be told to shut up on these issues. So as I say, I understand this video will be uncomfortable viewing for a lot of people. There's probably more I could say, but I just wanted to get all this off my chest. I understand that people will be saying I'm being divisive. I'm betraying my cause. I'm splitting up my movement. Well, you can say that all you like, but all I'm doing is pointing to the elephant in the room and stating facts. And if you disagree with me, if you have a point to make about anything that I've said, then please make it in the form of a coherent argument. Saying, well, it makes me feel better only proves my point. If you say those sorts of things. Oh, it's getting stuff off my chest. Another one I've heard is prevention is the best cure. In other words, if you're picketing beside people who are witnessing, you're preventing people from becoming Jehovah's Witnesses. Well, all you're doing is censoring or trying to censor Jehovah's Witnesses. And trying to censor Jehovah's Witnesses is a fruitless cause. You do not win hearts and minds by trying to shout out one side of the argument. The thing to do is allow both sides of the argument, but make sure your side of the argument is the most compelling. We have ways at our disposal, methods at our disposal that were unheard of generations ago, when things like shouting and picketing or maybe writing a book now and then was the only way for activists to do anything. We've advanced since then, just like medicine advances. And just like power tools are not the most appropriate equipment to go about a complex surgery, so is shouting and goading and heckling and picketing not the most effective way to free someone from mind control. We need to be clever, we need to be strategic and take full advantage of the new ways that are at our disposal. And this is not an elitist thing. It doesn't need to be just me. Anyone can sit in front of a camera and post a video to YouTube and show how sincere they are and tell their story and make a difference. Anyone can do it. It doesn't need to be me. It doesn't need to be a gifted writer. Anyone can make their case now on social media and pursue peaceful, strategic, clever, smart forms of activism. We do not need to stoop to these primal urges, to give in to them, to give in to our insecurities, to our need for retribution. We don't need to do it. It does more harm than good, and I'm not a criminal for saying that. So I understand this video is uncomfortable viewing for many people, but those things needed to be said. And once again, thank you for watching.